I've just finished watching State of the Game and I literally just closed it down. I didn't want to hear it anymore because the devs do not know what they're doing with this game. It's ridiculous. Every single week there are always mistakes in State of the Game. It's as if their notes are written in a language they don't understand, because there's some things they explain we already know, and then there's others, they don't make any sense at all. And what I'm referring to, literally the last bit I heard before I closed it down, was how they said they've removed the soft cap of a maximum of like having a 10-second cooldown on your skills. So those of you that have had skill builds previously, you would have noticed that no matter how high your skill power and stuff is, you can't get any lower than 10 seconds, and that's on like the Cluster Seeker Mine, the Pulse, and there's a couple of things that have a low cooldown, but there was a soft cap of 10 seconds. The guy then goes on to talk about how they've reduced that to the point where you can now have a 3-second timer on your Cluster Seeker Mine. So if you have a explosive damage skill build, you can literally spam Cluster Seeker Mines, and I don't think that's going to be a good addition to the game at all. Just because you're never, like with a skill build, people still want to use their weapons, some players might not, but a skill build should rely heavily on skills, not to the point where you are spamming it every 3 seconds. They maybe should have kept that to 10 seconds, but made the Seeker Mines even stronger, or something like that. The skill builds having the 3-second cooldown don't actually have the 3-second cooldown. The game designer himself, or one of them, said that even though they've got the soft cap down from 10 seconds to 3 seconds, he said it would be an absolute grind. You would have to go ham on skill builds, on skill haste, and he says mechanically he don't think it's possible to actually get it lower than 5 seconds. So they've reduced the soft cap down to 3, but the people that made the game don't think it's possible to lower it less than 5. And for those of you wondering, because of the title, the release date for Title Update 5 and Episode 1 is going to be July the 23rd for the Year 1 Pass owners, and July the 30th, so right at the end of the month, for players that don't own the Year 1 Pass. There's a couple of things I did here because I wasn't really paying full attention to the state of the game, just because I know the typical topics they'll go through on a weekly basis. And I think I'm yet to see an actual interest in State of the Game. There's been a couple that have had some interesting topics, but 9 times out of 10 they're already talking about stuff that we already know. When the PTS had the Dodge City Gunslinger's holster, the first exotic holster to come into the game, we already knew. I had already posted a video showing exactly what that thing looks like. Then it comes to the State of the Game for that week, and the developers are still trying to hide it. Hamish was like, oh, can we talk about this? Like, you know what I'm talking about. Can we talk about it? And it was just said, no, we're not going to discuss it in State of the Game. But I'm guessing the majority of the player base already knew what they were talking about. So they should have just opened up and said, like, because if people didn't know, it could have brought players back to the game by telling them there is an exotic piece of gear. Something that I heard was they were trying to make it so that you would have this like default skill build character that they've implemented into the PTS, but then you could take your own characters in. They didn't have the ability to make it so that you could have both. So everyone that was playing the PTS just had this shitty skill build character that the developers had awarded, and I don't think that was done right either. They should have literally just said, right, you got your own characters, and we're going to be implementing a skill build character. I don't know why that wasn't a thing. Like, why can you not have your own characters in a public test server, but you can have a skill build character that they've given you, when other PTS, like other test servers, have had the ability to use your own characters. And apart from that, with the State of the Game this week, they're literally just talking about things we already know. Like, they've boosted up the damage and stuff on some of the skills, and skills, I think they've messed up the builds. Like, there's been a few people I've seen that are saying, well, all these differences have come into it, I don't actually see the difference. If anything, people are thinking they've made skill builds worse than what they were before. But obviously we won't know until the 23rd, and another thing that bugs me is how the 23rd is the release date for the Year 1 Pass owners, but they said that they're happy with the feedback they've had, they're happy with how it looks, so why can't they release it earlier than making us wait another 2 weeks? And then, as always, there's the discussion, why is the PTS not on console? Yes, it would be a lot more difficult to implement it to the consoles, but Division 1 had PTS on console. I think it was through 1.7 and 1.8 or something, but there was a way for you to use PTS on console, and I don't know why they've backtracked and just had PC players, because two consoles player bases possibly make up more than a PC player base. So they're literally just losing extra feedback that could be critical to make players happy, because I don't know if they're testing it or not, but they really should be testing getting the public test servers onto console. That would be their biggest step in making players happy. We get to test all the stuff the PC players do. And as I said, I know it's not that simple. But one thing I think they've messed up with, because I'm calling it now, these exotics, the Diamondback rifle and the BTSU gloves, they're not going to work how they're supposed to. So if that is the case, you heard it here first. And the reason I'm saying that is because I found out in my, I wouldn't really call it a review, but I did a video about the Diamondback rifle, because Willis Gaming uploaded a video of it, and I was interested to explain what it is to you guys, so we went through it a little bit. It was kind of a hands-off review, because I've never used the gun myself. It was just like first impressions of seeing it kind of thing. But we saw the Diamondback rifle, and I asked, because Willis never explained how to get the rifle, and normally, well, not normally, every single time with exotics, you have to do something. Like the holster, you would have to go do control points, and then you would have to go to the certain bar at noon, and blah, blah, blah. There's always a quest, like an objective, a task, whatever you want to call it, a project even, that you have to go and do to get these exotics. There's certain things you have to do because they're exotic. So I said in the video, if you know, let me know in the comments. I then received a comment which was very interesting. Somebody told me that the Diamondback rifle and the BTSU gloves weren't actually available to get the proper way. You literally just went into the White House, the base of operations, and you bought them from the crafting vendor. So Anaya, who deals with all the blueprints and stuff, had the blueprint there for the exotic. If the developers are implementing the exotics into the crafting, into the blueprint vendor, then I would say that's a stupid move, because they deserve, like, they're exotic. They're like some of the best pieces in the game, or they're supposed to be. And not even necessarily the best, but sometimes they should be the hardest to obtain because they're exotic. But if it's the case of they've put it into the game and you can just buy the blueprint from the vendor, then that's stupid, because these exotics, you might as well say they're being neglected if they don't have their own quests to actually obtain them. But then on the other hand, and the reason I said I don't think they're going to work is because they've given them to the players on the PTS, which is good in terms of getting feedback to see how the weapon and the gloves work, but they haven't tested to see if it works for doing separate challenges to actually earn these in-game. So I'm going to give you an example of, like, to explain it to the best I can. If the gloves come into the game and they have the same requirement as the chatterbox, but you need to go around and open up the True Sons, like, crates, and they haven't tested that, then we don't know if that's going to work when it's put into the game. Because people could just go and use their money to buy the blueprints for the rifle and the gloves from the crafting vendor, they haven't done any testing on the actual way you would unlock these exotics in game. I really can't see any positives so far with what they're mentioning about bug fixes and things like that, because a lot of the stuff they fix is always something that was relevant to fix weeks ago, if not months. There's some things that are in the game still from launch that haven't been fixed, like there's sound bugs. Sound bugs are still plaguing this game. And then all of this new content, there's been messages like removed from chat on Twitch. I noticed the mods were keeping up with that, and they were keeping up with that pretty good, pretty quick, getting rid of messages. When the last state of the game, the one from last week, which would have been the 3rd of July, when that one happened, they actually disabled comments on the YouTube video after the stream because so many people were asking about the Year 1 pass and how they feel robbed out of their money. So anyone that's ever bought the Year 1 pass, myself included, it costs 35 quid. We've paid that money, even PC players, this isn't just console, even PC players have paid £35 to get early access to all of this stuff. If I remember correctly, it was it the 2nd? I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was about a week ago or something like that when the PTS went live. They actually did this one in stages of unlocking the things for players to use. But if we go for an example, because I can't be bothered to look it up, if we say that the missions that are part of the Year 1 pass, part of Episode 1, if they were available on the PTS on the 4th of July, then that would mean that they get to play it on PC 19 days earlier than people that have paid 35 quid to play this stuff early. And then if you look at it, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, if the PTS is on PC, why don't you just play it on PC? That's going to mean spending more money. And if you don't own a PC, but you want to play the PTS, then you've got to spend like, I don't know, let's just say 600 quid upwards to get a decent mid-end PC that's good for gaming, so that you can then spend extra money to buy Division 2, and that way you can test all this stuff. So I honestly think the Year 1 pass was purely just a money grab. People have wasted their money, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I spent 35 quid on the Year 1 pass, and I'm still having to wait 2 weeks from this day to play all this stuff part of Episode 1 that I've paid to play early. And there's people sitting there chilling like, oh yeah, I played this shit last week. Like, it was sick. They've done so much good stuff. So I don't know, I've been rambling on for a little bit. That's my honest opinion about State of the Game. It was pointless. 23rd of July is the release for Year 1 Pass owners. The 30th is for the non-Year 1 Pass owners. And also, I don't know what's happening with Title Update 5 because they haven't separated anything. I don't know if players without the Year 1 Pass are going to have to wait until the 30th of July to get hold of Title Update 5. I honestly don't know why they've whacked both into the same release. They should have done it so Title Update 5 deploys on the 22nd. Episode, like, that's for all platforms, regardless of if you own the Year 1 Pass or not. And then the following day, so on the 23rd, you would have Episode 1. Then a week later on the 30th, players without the Year 1 Pass would get it. But from what I've understood, the parts I was actually listening to a State of the Game, because it's just so boring every single week. I listen, but it's like a background listening. I'm not paying full attention to it because they normally just ramble on about the same stuff over and over again. And then they try and make their funny jokes which turn out to be cringy, and if you watch State of the Game, you'll understand what I mean. But yeah, 13 days from now for Year 1 Pass owners, a week after for non. And I think Title Update 5 is going to be mixed in with that. I'm not sure. They might do it so it's on the 23rd when Title Update 5 comes out regardless of Year 1 Pass. But that's something we're going to have to wait and see. And obviously, if I have got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments. But I think I've understood it properly. Let me know your thoughts and stuff. And remember to correct me in the comments if I was wrong. And yes, I know I can be a whingy bitch sometimes. And a lot of the stuff regarding Division 2 isn't positive. But do you really think I'm in the wrong for moaning about what I do? The developers have made an absolute nightmare of this game. It's going to take them a long time to turn it around, and the player base is just dipping, probably every single day. But that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.